listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
We are Lions. We bring hope where it's needed, support causes that matter, change lives, change communities, change the world. Visit lionsclubs.org to learn more.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
Hi, this is Winnie from the Rosendale Seniors, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Okay, good morning, Greg.
Thank you, Lawrence, and good morning. Good morning, listeners. 331-9255 is our call-in number. We would love to hear from the viewers and the listeners out there, anything that may be on your mind. This is the Kingston Community Radio, Wednesday morning radio show. We're broadcasting live from 16 Lucas Avenue, Kingston, New York. Fred Costello, Supervisor, Town of Saugerties, just walked in. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Shorts, Fred? Really?
I'm hanging in.
I wore a coat to work yesterday, and I love the cold.
I think I've seen him in shorts in January.
Once in a while. Wow. I'm hanging in, though. Today's supposed to be really nice.
Yeah,
no, it is. It's supposed to be 75 today.
Yeah, 75 today, 75 tomorrow, near 70 on Monday.
Chilly. It was chilly yesterday going to work.
Yeah, it did feel very good. It's the time of year, though. We've been fortunate so far.
You know, we have. We're approaching now. Next week's the last week in October, and
Can't believe it.
I know my furnace hasn't been on yet. The fireplace has been on a couple times, but just take the chill off.
Fireplace creates a nice atmosphere, too.
Yes, it does.
You don't mind that so much. When the oil bill starts running.
So, Major League Baseball playoffs.
What happened last night? Holy cow.
I'm not sure. I heard it on the radio. Houston came back, apparently. And
it went on forever.
Beat Boston. And up until last night's game, I was saying Boston was playing the best baseball they had played all year long.
I agree.
So now, obviously, the momentum swings to Houston as they go back to Houston to finish the series, tied up at 2 apiece.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. I don't know. I was really taken back because I think they gave up 7 runs to give away the lead. That's a collapse.
I believe so.
That's a collapse.
So. And Atlanta is up 2-1 on the Dodgers. Yep. The Dodgers won last night to prevent from being eliminated. It is 3 out of 5, right?
I think so, yeah.
3 out of 5, and then the World Series is
7.
4 out of 7.
So it'll be exciting. Some good baseball.
Yes.
Really good baseball.
Yes.
And it'll be a good series, whoever ends up in it. Well, those teams are all showing why they're out in the situation they're in. Really competitive, which is kind of exciting.
And
it's hard for me to root for Boston.
Oh, it's hard for me to root for Boston. I hate Boston, yeah.
Yeah. The Astros are like this abstract.
I know, but because of what the Astros did a couple of years ago with their cheating, I was rooting for Boston.
I agree.
I don't want to see Houston. I mean, Houston cheated and got a World Series ring and took one away from the Yankees. The evidence was very, very clear. When that occurred. And on the local with our local football teams, it continues to be what a disgrace.
It's going to be torturous here.
What a disgrace.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Really sad.
You know,
I can't believe the Bills lost the way they did.
I was going to say that the Giants are unwatchable.
just when you think it can't get any worse, then the following week, what happens? It gets worse.
It gets worse. Yeah, last year they kept getting better as the season went on. It's their defense. It's just very disappointing.
Which, I mean, they were that was their one of their strong points going into the season was their defense.
It was.
It was a nice halftime show. They Tom Coughlin gave a nice speech.
Yeah, that was nice.
They honored the
Super Bowl 47 team.
2011.
Yeah.
A lot of the players were there.
Oh, you had a big day then. That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, they showed some of the highlights on the Jumbotron. That was about as much as the action as we got because there was none on the field.
Yeah, those are the only highlights during halftime when they weren't playing.
There were some irate fans, but the weather was awesome.
Yes, it was.
Now going to Giant games, we look forward to eating in the parking lot. Like me and Cam were just doing the menu yesterday for Sunday because there's another game on Sunday. And he's making jambalaya. I'm making New England clam chowder. My uncle and cousin are coming down from Rochester. We had planned these games out earlier in the year. And I'm like, God, Cam, we still got to go to 4 more games? I'm like, oh. Just dreading it. Greg's like, he's already given up. Like, Greg's like, I'm lucky. I got to go to a wedding this week. I'm like, oh, you're lucky, man. I wish I was going to a wedding.
There's no way I would going to want to get up at 5:30, get everything all set.
Right, it's a long day.
And be ready to pull out at 6:45, 7 o'clock. It just
and then you're getting at home at 12 hours later, or actually we got home at 6, like I was telling you.
And it's a late wedding too.
Yeah, it's a long day. It's a long day.
So nope, not me.
Not doing it this week. No. Who do they play this week?
Carolina.
Panthers.
They're going to lose.
Panthers.
If you look at their schedule, I think they can beat the Dolphins and the Redskins. That's probably.
You know what's going to happen? They're going to go up against a strong team, a winning team, and they're going to surprise the heck out.
I thought they were going to do that this week,
just like
last week.
Just like New Orleans. I mean, look at the way they played against New Orleans.
Yeah.
And then against the Cowboys, they don't show up.
I don't know.
So let's get off that subject because that's.
I'm sure the listeners don't want to hear about that Giants.
We were talking about the Red Sox, and one of my favorite things about football is rooting for whoever is playing Dallas. I'm one of those reverse fans.
Yeah.
But they actually deserve the win. They played some nice ball. They're playing fairly well, unfortunately.
They are.
Yeah.
So we got a nice lineup here this morning. At 7:30 in the 7:30 half hour is Chief Tinti from the city of Kingston, and then John Quigley and Ashley Dittus will be joining us in the studio. Board of Election commissioners.
Very relevant topic because this weekend begins early voting.
Yes, Saturday starts early voting and runs right through Halloween, October 31st. Unfortunately, Senator Hinchy had to cancel out, but Neil Smoller is going to make every attempt to call in and talk about some vaccination testing he's going to be doing at the Greco Center, actually starting tomorrow, and then subsequent Tuesday, Thursdays through the middle of November.
Okay, good. He's doing boosters?
Yeah, I think in People's Place on Monday, October 25th, I think it's in
we're going to read that in a minute.
Okay.
He's going to offer to all Sorgetes Central School District students who want to play sports, not only the high school Biddy Basketball League, SAA, and then I'm not sure if he's, I believe, because he's calling it a community testing and vaccination.
Cool.
So he'll be doing both testing and vaccines.
He calls in. It's been a while, and he's got. I hope he kept the diary for the past 18 months because it's really been an interesting road for him.
Yes, it has.
That's true.
Yes, it has. So as Lawrence mentioned here, we got a
couple of announcements. We have the Kingston High School Tiger Marching Band will host their 11th annual Fall Fanfare Competition at Deed Stadium on Sunday, October 24th at 12:30 p.m. One other local band, Arlington High School, will also perform. The competition is an official part of the New York State Field Band Conference, operating in New York State since 1972. This organization oversees competitions for high school bands throughout the state. Certified judges evaluate competing bands in 6 categories that encompass every aspect of the field show, from music and marching to visual effects. Gates will open at noon, and tickets are available at the competition for $9. In addition to the performances, there will be food trucks and raffles. All proceeds will support the Marching Band Booster Club. Media contacts would also be grateful if you could add this. So that was us. We did. So good for them.
And as Lawrence was mentioning, People's Place will be offering COVID-19 vaccine booster shots administered by the Ulster County Department of Health and Mental Health. Takes place Monday, October 25th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Also be offering first and second doses for those that want them. Please call 845-338-4030 to register. And new at their thrift store, they are now taking credit cards. So those who, like me, use credit card for everything.
Everything.
I do not like to deal in cash.
That's becoming a more and more common theme.
At the at the sports venues now, you cannot use cash. You don't have any other choice. If you don't have a credit card, they have reverse ATM machines where you put $20 in, $50 in, and you get a debit card to use. So even if you wanted to use cash, you can no longer use cash. And I understand, just in talking to a buddy of mine that was in a restaurant in New York City recently, the same deal. So instead of having ATM machines now, there's reverse ATM machines.
Is there a fee?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I was curious.
I don't know.
That's the one thing about credit cards and cash. They are expensive.
Yeah. And that's why we haven't instituted at the ice arena. And actually, Rob had sent me one that has a very, very low interest rate because we get asked all the time.
I know, but even so, the one kind of unknown about all that, even because we always try to shop the credit card service and get one that's a more favorable rate for us as a vendor. However, folks that have rewards cards, those blow those rates out of the water because the vendor actually pays the reward.
Yes.
So you're going to get it.
I'm one of them.
Yep.
I'm one of them.
Yeah. You're going to spend 4 or 5% of the sale on a credit card transaction.
With the Capital One, for if you hit $25,000 in a spending year, besides the 2 points, the 2 rewards you get for every dollar spent, you get a $25,000 not 25,000, 25,000 bonus points.
Do you really?
Yeah.
That's going to be one of those traditionally American Express is the most expensive.
Yes.
Because they used to they pioneered that. But that Capital One card sounds like it's going to be expensive for a vendor. It adds up.
It does. Oh, yeah. Well, there's many places now that charge more for credit than they do for cash. There's gas stations that charge more per gallon for.
And it's a growing trend at restaurants because
Yes.
The other thing is sometimes there's a minimum on a sale.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a takeout place and you have a $8 or $10 sale, you might be paying 75 cents of that sale for the credit card fee. So, all right, we got more announcements. The Snowflake Festival. Friday, December 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. in Uptown Kingston. Raffle closes on November 15th for kids under 12. Winners must pick up a bike at the festival. Wait a minute, this is confusing. So there must be a bike raffle that is being sponsored by the Kingston Uptown Business District. That raffle will close on the 15th, and they have to pick it up at the festival. So that'll be exciting. Helmets and locks provided by Bike Friendly Kingston. And big thanks to the 2021 bike sponsors, Catskill Hudson Bank, Brody Real Estate, and BHS Hudson Valley Properties.
And the YMCA is sponsoring a Bike Friendly Kingston Bike Repair Clinic. October 20th it takes place. It's in the Y parking lot on Pine Grove Avenue in Kingston and takes place from 3 to 6 p.m. to have your bike checked over. Last bike is accepted at 5:30 p.m. Is your bike ready to ride? Well, you will find out if you bring your bike to the Y, again on October 20th between 3 and 6 p.m. And what else do you need? On a bike, a bell is required by New York state law, and if you ride after dark, you need a set of front and rear lights. If you're under 14 years of age, a helmet is required while riding. And if you don't have any of those, you can get bells, lights, and bike helmets at the clinic. No advance registration required. The event is free, but donations are welcome. Be sure to bring your bike and wear a mask or other face covering if you're not vaccinated. And just in case of bad weather, the rain date is Thursday, October 21st. If you require additional information, contact the program manager, Tom Polk, at 845-338-3810, extension 102. You can also email tpolk at ymcaulster.org. And I'm sure if you go on to their website, all that information is there along with additional.
This weekend in Sorgeties is the Touch a Truck on Saturday afternoon. I was looking for, there's plenty of information about that on our website. So anyone might be interested in going. We have a nice menu of motor vehicles for the kids to kind of get close to and look at and enjoy. And there will be some refreshments there as well. And all the proceeds for that event will help support the reconstruction of the Small World Playground.
Marge called me yesterday, and she said, a lot of vehicles.
Yeah.
A lot of vehicles, a lot of pieces of equipment. We're going to throw some stuff in. She'd asked about the Zamboni. Unfortunately, we cannot because the ice arena is in full bore, and that on weekends the Zamboni's going out every hour,
right?
Every hour and a half or so. And but Leanne did ask about the Zamboni snow, if we could haul down some Zamboni snow. So we're going to be able to accommodate that and throw a couple of our other interesting pieces of equipment in the lineup.
Loader, right?
Yeah.
Shiny, so.
Yeah. I didn't even think about the new loader, but yeah, we could bring, I suppose so. On Saturday, you mentioned the Touch a Truck on Sunday. On Saturday, the Tributopia concert
John's event
takes place. John McFeely's event takes place at the large pavilion from 2 to 10 p.m. The Touch a Truck is from noon to 4 or
something
10?
like that. Yeah,
it wouldn't be 10. No, probably noon to 4. Fred is looking
look it up.
That information up.
Information.
You know, one thing while he's looking that up, I do want to say to our listeners and viewers, because I've got a rash of them lately, more so than what I've gotten in the past, is text messages and emails that are fraudulent, that look like they're from a
credible source.
A credible source. And some of the text messages that come through, you know, if one doesn't realize or one is enticed by it, they're offering hundreds of dollars, and the last thing in the world you want to do is click on any kind of an attachment or whatever.
Yeah, don't even respond to it.
You know,
just delete the thing right away. I get like 2 or 3 a day. I'm glad to hear that I'm not the only one getting them.
And you know,
I was like,
here's the other thing.
I don't understand where they got my number from. Like,
if you take the telephone number that it comes from, and you call from a landline, which they can't gather any of your personal information, you will not get an answer. You'll get a rapid busy signal,
right,
or you will get about a message that the phone has been disconnected.
Now looking at mine, I just got one last night. It wasn't from a number. It came on the text 287-287. That was the number it came under. It was, click on this link for, Nugenics or, just some kind of offer for, a dietary supplement or something, blah, blah, blah. I was like, what the hell?
It was a topic of our conversation at our department head meeting last week. And
crazy.
The elevated measures that IT will be taking. It's a serious threat out there, and I gotta. Did you?
Ever evolving too.
Yeah.
I'm not connected to the Wi-Fi, so it's going really slow. But you're right about it, Greg. The cyber threat is real. They've kind of figured out a lot of ways to clone emails. I know last year someone had cloned my email and emailed members of the town staff and asked them to go out and purchase gift cards on behalf of me so that I could give them to the employees, which obviously was something I never would do. And, most folks caught up to it pretty quickly, but as soon as we became aware of it, we put out an email acknowledging that email had gone out and to stay away from it and not open it if you get it. And a lot of times when you open those emails, it invites a virus onto your computer, and it could jeopardize the network security. And one of the things that was a subject of the conversation at our department head meeting was what measures we have to adopt going into 2022 to kind of keep up with the times and then acknowledge those threats. And it's starting to become a costly thing to make sure those networks are safe. On-site storage certainly isn't enough, and you need your data to be stored remotely. And at a fairly frequent pace where there's a quick opening where the data is downloaded to a remote location, the data's closed and protected, and then an hour and a half or 2 hours later, they'll do the same thing again. And those facilities that offer that service have the ability to scan the data while it's there and make sure that it has not been compromised in any way. Then in the event that we were held in a ransom attack, we have our data, which might be an hour and a half or 2 hours old, but at least we could restore all our network.
Right.
And we all know, certainly the town function wouldn't have the consequence that when the pipeline went down earlier in the spring. Remember that? Mm-hmm. We wouldn't be of that consequence causing a national crisis, but it could cost our residents a substantial amount of money. And a lot of that data is very important individually. We keep a lot of data on the 8,000 parcels of property that are in Saugerties. Obviously, with the police department, the arrest records and all those are sensitive and important to keep. And there's a responsibility that goes along with it as well. When you think of the town clerk's function, death certificates, marriage certificates, a lot of that is still held in hard copy, but having that stored digitally is really important as well. Family members who may have moved to another part of the country or world may not have to wait for mail if we can email something to them. And making sure that data is safe and secure is a challenge. And we're trying to meet it, but it's incredible how quickly things change. We felt last year we were in pretty good shape, and certainly every organization, large or small, doubled down after the pipeline catastrophe that happened in the spring, and we've all are trying to make changes that reflect the lessons that were learned in that event. So going into 2022, we're adopting a number of additional protocols, and insurance companies are really becoming in tune to this now as well. They anticipate that their clients will maintain a minimum standard of security so that that the opportunity for them to pay out a claim is lessened. There's an expectation amongst the insurance providers that their clients are taking this matter seriously, and that they are certainly putting protocols and measures in place that will make their life less likely to pay out a claim. So we're responding to that as well, and it's interesting. And as we're making announcements, I know you're looking for the one. Monday, we're going to have an interesting event. We're going to host a joint town and village meeting at the ice rink. Mm-hmm. And there's a panel of experts in the marijuana field who are going to address both boards and members of the public who choose to come about the impacts that the legalization of marijuana is going to have and what the commerce market might look like when we add into it marijuana sales. So I think that would be an interesting conversation, if nothing else, to kind of get a perspective on how things might look different in 2022. And we expect that there will be the establishment of some retail sales of marijuana in Saugerties in 2022. So it'll be, I think for all of us, it's going to be a little bit curious. And I know everybody kind of jumps to, well, it's going to look just like Massachusetts. I don't think it will, only because Massachusetts had the advantage of being the only game in town, so to speak, for a long time. So those vendors there, especially on the western border of New York, or the eastern border of New York, the western Massachusetts, a lot of New Yorkers go there to buy their inventory.
Yes.
And once those retail establishments are created on the New York side, I don't think that mass migration and travel to secure whatever you're interested in is going to still happen.
No, if you're going to have
change dramatically.
Yeah, if you're going to have it in your own backyard, nobody's going to travel the extra distance and the extra cost that's associated with it to travel over state lines.
Yep. So I think it's going to be curious to see what it's going to look like, and I'm very curious. I know some of the individuals that are part of the panel, and they both bring, well, the two I know have experience out of New York State in retail and in the cultivation, and it's really quite a science, and there's a lot of lessons hopefully that we could benefit from as we move forward here in New York State, of things that happen in California and things that happen in Colorado. They were not intended consequences, and kind of didn't make the experiences smooth as we all would like it to go here. So I'm curious, see how it goes. We're working on some zoning legislation with regard to that too. The consensus of the board is that there's probably room for 3 or 4 retail operations in Saugerties. We certainly don't want them to be right next to each other, kind of match the distribution of liquor stores that's in the community. So we're going to put a significant setback between retail operations. So if there was one down by us on the Heights side, there couldn't be another one for a mile in either direction, and they have to be within the general business district. So there's going to be specific zoning areas where it can happen. We're going to expand on the legislation that the state offered for setbacks from schools and setbacks from religious institutions, to be as sensitive as we can to how they may view this. And but we don't want it to be out of someone's garage or down an alley either. It's a lawful enterprise now, and we want it to look and feel as much like another retail operation as it can. I think that would be the best way for people to participate in it and to kind of suppress any illegal activity that might be surrounding it.
Good.
So, yeah, obviously sales to minors are a big concern and things of that nature. So I think the more we can make it legitimized and kind of monitor it, the better luck we're going to have in doing it. And one of the lessons from California is there became these old kind of retail rows that were retail operations that were declining, became all invigorated with a lot of marijuana sales. However, they were so concentrated that those operations couldn't be sustainable, and we don't want that either, because that, businesses that become desperate do things that they wouldn't do otherwise. So we want them to be successful as well.
A lot of stuff happening.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
good
We're not
stuff.
bored.
Good stuff happening. And, I saw on the agenda, you may just want to briefly mention on the air to our viewers and readers, because I'm sure you're going to, obviously you and the board will get backlash, but I saw on the agenda for the public hearing to exceed the tax cap. And again, that has to do strictly with the ambulance request, which obviously there's a void that needs to get filled.
Yeah, so we are still working on our budget, and given the request that's being made by Diaz and the consensus that the third car is needed, we are there's an inevitability that we're likely to pierce the cap for the first time in many, many years. In order to do that, we have to host a public hearing and give the public an opportunity to share their thoughts as to why we're pursuing that. And so, yeah, we will get some pushback. However,
But there's also
kind of speak for themselves when it comes to the ambulance service.
And I think, obviously, those in the medical and EMS firefighting field know the large void that's there. I know there was a tremendous turnout of the volunteer firemen from all of the fire companies in Sorgetes. And, I mean, it's just, to listen to, because obviously I have a portable radio in my vehicle, which does have also the police channel, and to listen how they go just on almost a constant basis. And then Diaz, and there's many times where there's not a rig available in Sorgetes. And obviously, Mobile Life and the other providers, they're experiencing the same high demand. So it's tough.
You can pick up on that if we have a little time when Chief is here.
We are at the bottom of the hour. We will be back in a few, listeners, with Police Chief Tinti.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Grammer. Wounded Warrior Project supports injured veterans by connecting them with fellow warriors, by serving them through mental health and wellness programs, and by empowering them to live on their own terms. No one should face a battle alone. Join us at woundedwarriorproject.org.
To battle is to fight, to struggle, to overcome, and ultimately for the Marine Corps, it means to win. There is no alternative. It's not just a statement of intent. It's a promise to our nation. A promise kept for more than 2 centuries. A promise of the Marines.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Jared Mans from the Spring Lake Fire Department, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, viewers and listeners who have been with us the first half hour. Those just joining us, welcome, 331-9255. We have in the studio here for this half hour Police Chief Jed Tinti from the City of Kingston. Good morning. And Fred Costello, Supervisor of Town of Sorgetes.
Good morning.
Half hour, that's it, huh? 30
that's
minutes.
It.
We'll pass this like that.
That's it. We cut him in half today.
All right. One more time for the call-in number.
331-9255.
9255. I'm going to ask the city clerk to call in and kind of help us out a little bit. In the last half hour we were talking about.
I know, right. So you can't get an official copy of those through digital. It has to have the seal on it.
Seal on it. Yeah, that's it. That's what she wants.
So we absolutely she can call in. And I certainly don't want to put bad information out.
No. No, and it's funny because you would think at this time, right? And with all the and you mentioned, listen, City of Kingston's in the same boat. The IT issues we have and phishing scams and it's just absolutely amazing what we have to deal with, right? Barracuda set up filters and it's crazy anymore. But you would even think, today's day and age, especially after going through COVID, what we did, that there would be mechanisms to have essentially zero public contact anymore. I mean, we've tried to get that in our police department, and part of it is, my staff who works hard has to leave their desk doing what they're doing to go down to the lobby, meet someone, exchange paperwork. It seems ridiculous in today's day and age where they can't fill out forms online. And I understand maybe some of the elderly or population that doesn't have access to printers and stuff may not have that. But today, most should be able to be done either on a smartphone, tablet, or laptop. So, when you talk about, she mentioned during the break, she said that when I talked to her, she said, it can't be emailed because there's a void or something. And that's understandable then. Now, we can't electronically send copies of this stuff out. I just don't understand it. I mean, you need a physical copy anymore, and it seems like, after last year, we've been getting away from all that. So
we just ran into it with the lien release for a car loan.
Oh, is that right?
It had to be an original copy, so they needed that little seal, and
wow,
they were able to scan it and send so that there was assurance that the vehicle was in fact paid off, but the transaction couldn't happen until
you got the original
stamp. Yeah, so there's still a little bit of
that's got to change at some point, right? We are,
and I think inevitably it will. I really do, because there's that trend going. And obviously, with something like this, with maybe legal documents, there needs to be some kind of safeguards put in place that as you're sending electronically, it can't be, quote, stolen, unquote.
I mean, we went from rolling ink, actual ink. When I got there was a toothpaste type tube of ink. You'd put a little squirt in it. You'd take a roller, roll it on this plate of glass, thick plate of glass, and you'd roll fingerprints onto the cards. And the card holders, you had to move them, and you got taught how to do that in the academy, and then the FTO, the field training officer, would show you, because again, doing someone who's willing to someone who may be intoxicated or not so willing to get fingerprinted is a challenge. And then we moved into a new biometric type scanner where the fingerprints now are being done on glass, like a copy machine. And so again, the same challenges, right? Someone who doesn't want to be there, but everything's electronic. So we went from, I dare say it was close to 10 4-foot tall, 4-drawer file cabinets to a computer terminal that has everything in it.
Amazing, though.
Yeah, and those records are still valid. So we tried to scan them, and I think we got up to the G's. And that was it. After that, it's just too much. We're talking about, back to the 50s, and there's a simplicity to the old system. I see our dispatchers. Again, when I came on, we used to have what we call blotter cards, and they were, large cards, about half a sheet of paper, and they were duplicate, so they always had a back copy, and they were individually numbered. So we would order 35,000. Our average was about 32. We'd always order 35,000 blotter cards, individually numbered from one of the printing places in Kingston. They'd come in boxes at the beginning of the year or end of the year, and we'd store them up, and we'd pull them out as we needed them. And every time there was a call, the dispatcher into the time clock would punch the clock when the call came in, when the dispatch was made, when the officers arrived, and when the cars called out back into service. And there was some simplicity to that, because when you've got 3 phone calls going, you punch 3 cards and you fill them out as you go. Today, with the computer system, it's not so smooth. There's a lot of stuff going on, and all the different. It's difficult, and for us, one of the things that is most difficult down there to manage, and not because of the personnel, just the overwhelming amount of information that comes in and requests, is our dispatch center. We currently have 1 full-time and then usually 1 part-time, about half the shift of each shift working, just to try to help. And in some cases, it's never enough. We could easily justify 2 full-time dispatchers, easily, in our place. There's no doubt about it, especially the daytime, afternoon C-line schedule, where there's basically, 2/3 of the department is working at that point. Phone calls to my office, training room, evidence, whatever it might be. And we try to tell everybody, call directly. Call if you need me. Call my number directly. Right, 331-4766 will get you to my desk. However, there's people that just call the business number as the chief in. Now they call. You in? Yeah. No, you don't. You're not in today. Okay. All right. That kind of thing. So. But it's a challenge. It is. And it's all over, right? Every jurisdiction has IT challenges, right? You have your own IT department or your own IT company or somebody that hire. And
we just talked about that.
Yeah. So, it's interesting to see how convenient it is, right? When we look up records, there it is. But the maintenance of it, especially when you start opening
a lot.
up. Oh, the email, and you can't function anymore without having that outside access. So. And they're good. I got to tell you, our IT department, our director of IT, Kyle McIntosh, does an exceptional job. But he sends out these phishing scams on his own just as tests. And occasionally people get hooked on it. They'll be like, oh, that came from the chief. Let's take a look, But if you look at the email, it wasn't really me, But who's looking at that?
Nobody's
stuff?
right.
Yeah, who's looking at that?
Especially the volume of email you get, you're kind of scrolling through what needs priority. And, something that's going to come from your boss.
Important, right? Especially when the subject line is important. Must read.
All you have to do is click on that email address, and it displays the properties. And, boy, there's been some crazy
things.
ones. And just,
and occasionally, what happens is people get, I know Elisa, the city clerk, my wife, will say, I don't know. So she'll send it to him. She goes, are you trying to get me? And he's like, no, that's a good one. Wait. But so there's always some apprehension on everyone's part. But yeah,
that's a good cultural, because I think we have it a little bit, but one of the takeaways from the meeting was that we need to reinforce that culture and make people suspicious of email and be careful about what you're opening, and that there's a risk to that, and we could put the best security network in place, but if I inadvertently invite something wrong in, it may go undetected for a while and could do a lot of damage.
And depending on the level of administrator, right? I mean, myself and a couple of other command staff members have a higher level above the filter that allows us access to certain things. We got to be really careful, right? Because at that point, you can invite a virus in that there was initially, not so much now, but initially, again, Kyle is doing the right thing by checking the fence, right? We always making sure that he would leave errant USB drives laying on the desks. And, God.
You're curious, you're going to plug in.
What's in here, right? Bink! Pow! Exactly what he wanted, right? So, and, but I'd be like this, all right. Sitting right there. It's not going anywhere. But, yeah, I mean, and the curiosity gets the best of us.
It does.
All of us.
It does.
It absolutely does. So it's interesting to see that. But they do a great job considering I can only speak about our needs down there, but, I know Saugerties has the same ones, right? We have computers in the cars. So there's no more hardline Ethernet cable back and forth from the server to the computer. Now you're doing everything wireless, right? So, and terrain, right? Especially Saugerties, huge jurisdiction.
There's voids where we can't
60 some miles, right?
Oh, yeah.
67 square, I believe.
That's unbelievable.
7 or 69.
So when you talk about trying to get data out there, right? Not just radio transmissions, computer stuff. No, I don't know how you do it. I really don't.
There's
shocked.
challenges, and there's areas where radio doesn't work, and we know where they are. So you end up putting somebody with a portable where they could get to a trunking unit and push it back out again. But that staging ties up staff that could be helping with the situation and not just being a communication center. So the county's being proactive right now. They're just got a tower approved for the Quarryville site. That'll be part of the broader network, and I think that's going to be helpful.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Especially for the fire services. And there's a number of cell tower proposals in the planning process, but those are never well received. Right. Never, ever, ever. But
we have got a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Kingston Community Radio.
Good morning, gentlemen. How's everybody doing today?
Morning, George.
Hey, you guys was talking about scams earlier. There's a new email scam out there that starts off with the heading, immediate validation of your COVID-19 status is compulsory. And they say it has to deal with the Center for Disease Control and Prevention in partnership with New York DMV. Requires an immediate validation of your COVID-19 status. This is a waiver validation update and a compulsory one-time validation for all New York residents. And then they send you a link to click onto. That is one of the newer scams because I ran it through Nina when she was on last week and sent her a copy of the email. And she posted the DMV website and the county website. So this is another new scam for them to try to get information. It comes from a New York State Department of Health spearing at Northrop BM, the return address. So that's another one to watch out for, to where they're trying to get all your information.
A perfect example of the creativity that these folks use, because that's something we're all sensitive to. And, you want to make it as easy as you can to establish a passport or understand if there's boosters available. So you're likely to click on that.
And think about the number of people that they can send them out with a push of a button, right? They just send these emails as spam, just boom. Millions of people can get it. All they need is a couple of thousand to fall for it, right? That's all they need.
Nowadays, anymore, before you click on anything, you have to read wherever it comes from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And make sure, because I tell you what, like you were saying, it may look legit and everything else, but like the chief was saying just a little bit before, it's just a little bit off in the address.
Yep.
And you have to watch everything. And
it's like looking through the peephole of your door before you open it. It's the same thing. Right. Just got to be vigilant.
And one of the first places, just click on that properties, and it shows clearly who it's coming from. But, what's, as we've gone on in time, and recently what I have found is the way these come through, the level of credibility is unbelievable.
Yes, they do look original, and like they've had one out before, the Amazon confirmation of shipment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another one.
They caught me on that one. They caught me once, but we stopped everything before they got a dime, so that was good. And but it wants you to confirm shipment and stuff. You say you never ordered it, then they want to get into all your credit cards and other information. Well, we could do this to cancel it out or whatever.
Got to be real.
They caught me one time, and that was it. But luckily, I called Roundout Savings Bank, who's the sponsor of KNY, Kingston Community Radio, and the guy said, that is a scam, hang up. And we cut everything before they got a dime. So it does pay to listen in and listen to these scams. And you guys keep up the good work. Chief, you got a good group of officers in Kingston, as I said before. And, hey, we got a great law enforcement around here, and we should be proud of what we have in this county and for the most part the state, too. So you guys
wouldn't be possible without supporters like yourself.
All right, thank you, George. We got another caller in the wing. We appreciate your call. You have yourself an awesome day.
Yep.
Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Kingston Community Radio.
Good morning. Before you were talking about fingerprinting,
yes.
Is it possible for somebody's fingerprints to disappear?
One more time?
What happened to me
disappear.
Working in the school, when I first started, we didn't get fingerprinted. But then when I was out for about a year, because after St. Mary's closed, and I wanted to get back in again, and I got fingerprinted over into high school, and it was done on the paper, where they roll your finger back and forth. But then 2 years after that, the foster grandparent program, we were required to get fingerprinted again, and we were told where we had to go, and there they did it with a computer, but they were not able to get my fingerprints. They said I no longer had. I went there twice. I had gone back a second time, and they still couldn't get my fingerprints.
Yeah, it could be a reader issue. It depends, right? I mean, we've seen it where people come in and their fingertips are damaged from work or whatever. It's difficult for the system to read. There are different mechanisms. In cases where there's something like that happening, we do palm prints or anything like that. But it can happen. It's unusual that all of them are gone, unless, people that frequently, concrete workers and stuff like that. We've seen it like that. People that don't wear gloves when they do heavy construction but normally, give it a couple of weeks.
I never did any of that. I worked as a nurse's aide, and then my fingers were in water.
Right. But so that may be part of it. That
school and everything. Like I said, when I first started out there, when the first time they took it and they did it on the paper, they had no problems getting it. But when they did it through the computer,
Yeah. So I mean, even if they can't read them through the glass, the new system now, there is a way to actually ink them and then scan them in with a high DPI scanner, fingerprint scanner, that will read the paper. And so there's ways around it, obviously. I mean, but yeah, that's and now they have portable ones that read thumbprints, and amazing where the technology is going. Right, we have fingerprint scanners on our smartphones now, right? So that's how you activate. So it's pretty impressive, but it is a possibility. I mean, the technology changes, and when I started, DNA really wasn't even anything that it was just being discussed. And now look at the amount of solved crimes and homicides and so on that have come
Well,
out.
look at the number of cold case of 30 plus years where they didn't have the DNA, and then now they do have the DNA.
The collection procedures. It's a lot. There's a lot going on now with it. So, good. We'll see what the next step is in law enforcement. I probably won't be around for it, but who knows? I know what's coming. That's pretty impressive.
Okay, one other thing about the scams. Yeah. I've been getting calls, and I know other people have too. People saying they're from Medicare, and they have your new Medicare card, and they want your old number so they can, reactivate your new number. And, people know that it's just all a scam because Medicare does not call.
But if you're not aware of it, I taught a class for seniors specifically about scams and so on. And as I'm telling the story about one potential scam, this woman raised her hand and she lowered her head and shook it and said, "Yeah, I fell for it." I go, "You did?" And she said, "Yeah, everything you said." And it was what I wanted to hear. Like the circumstances they said was what I was waiting to hear, and I did it. And they took money out of my bank account. I had to close it all out, and she explained everything. And people will say, it's your grandchild, and if they call up and say Nana, and you call you're known as Nana in the family, now you're paying attention, right? And maybe the phone call is a little scratchy, so you can't really make out the voice, and don't tell Dad, but I got in trouble. Any way you can send me money, I got to fix the car, and unfortunately, people are always.
I got those twice, and one of the things I always asked him, I knew right from the beginning it was a scam, but I said to him, "I have a question for you, and you want to know what the question was? I want to know what your name is."
Right.
He hung right up,
Right. Yeah, and then they hang up, and there's no way to trace it, and they move on to the next person. It doesn't matter. For them, they swing, miss, they move on, they keep swinging. They keep swinging until they hit it.
I came across something yesterday, and in the first half hour, I was trying to retrieve it on my phone. I couldn't, but I believe I'm correct in the figure. Since the pandemic started, scammers have scammed Americans out of $5.7 billion.
Wow.
I believe that is what the figure. I'm sure it wasn't 5.7 million. I could be wrong on that, but to the best of my recollection, I can't retrieve it. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I mean, today they have mechanisms for like credit cards and debit cards. If you use it, it tells you it's been used. Are you authorizing it? There's 2 points of verification, even on emails and bank accounts. And so if you log in, it sends you a code to your phone only. And so, but the truth is, you just got to stay on it, And I consider myself rather tech savvy. I mean, I built my own computers when I was in high school, so I kind of know that stuff. But my mom and dad, when they were alive, they had really no. My father would click on anything that came his way. Anything. It was just, and again, a standalone computer, so who cared? It didn't matter. It wasn't connected to anything. But I'd get there and I go, "What happened?" And he goes, "I don't know. I pushed the button. I don't know. I pushed the button," he would say. So I have to clean it all out, and in some cases you couldn't. Right? New laptop for him, so
new hard drive.
New hard drive, and so I ended up getting him one of those Chromebooks. He couldn't do any damage to that. So I'd get there, and there were some things on his wall. I said, "How did you make this a wallpaper?" And he'd go, I don't know. I clicked the button. He would say. So, yeah, interesting. So, last thing, I got a couple minutes.
Thank you for your call, Mrs. R. You have yourself a great day.
Thanks, same to you, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you very much. So we have a police commission meeting tonight. For those listening may not know, in addition to the regular police officers and the mayor, there is a civilian police commission. Essentially, their duties are hire, fire, discipline, and promote. If I'm boiling it down, they do more than that, but those are the major factors. And so tonight we're looking at interviewing 5 candidates, and next week, an additional 8 candidates for 9 positions. We are down 9 vacancies right now. 6 from retirements and people going on to different agencies and moving on, and 3 new positions that the mayor has and the council have approved in the budget. So they're authorized as of October 1st. We're behind the timeline, but so we just did command staff interviews yesterday, and they're interviewing. We're doing 2 sets. There's a 90 group coming in tonight There's only 5 of them. We hope to choose 3 of them going into it and then bring in the 85s. But it has been constant as far as background investigations being done. The amount of work that our detectives are doing now between current cases coming in every day, and we're lucky, knock on wood, really the big stuff now, burglaries, larcenies, a few robberies here and there. But, they're still working on some of the homicides that are unsolved.
So besides the current vacancies, the mayor and the city council approved 3 new positions.
Yes, so there
That's
were
good to
6
hear.
total.
That's good to hear.
So we're moving the budgeted number from 71 to 74, and we just had an officer, I'll say the state retired him. He was out injured, long-term injured, an injury, listen, I feel bad, right? And but he was determined to be, disabled, so he's out. So that vacancy, which really has been almost 3.5, 4 years that we haven't had. He was on long term.
That system needs to be streamlined.
Yeah, well,
it's a difficult thing to collect, every doctor's opinion and analyze it, but you're not even a small agency in Ulster County per se, but that's a burden for you guys to handle.
Everybody. For us, it's unbelievable how just 1 or 2 people, and again, patrol, right? We have certain limitations within the contract. We have to staff it and so on. But yeah, we're looking at 9 positions. In addition to and I'll say 14, but there were 16 new hires at the beginning of the year. Our patrol division is about 1.5 years old. A third of it is about 1.5 years old. It's unbelievable. So, we see it as an opportunity, as we move on.
The captain see it as an opportunity too, or is he wondering what he got himself into?
So a lot of times, and it's interesting to see when they interview, right, that every time we ask them a question, they're giving the right answer. And some of them are already currently cops, part-time and so on, and some of them have to go to the academy depending on their schedule and whatnot. But yeah, we have 2 in the academy currently that graduate in December. And then we have these 9 positions, of which right now there's 7 of them are current police officers or have the academy in some form, pre-employment. But if not, then 2 of them have to go to the academy. So again, now for 6 months, you're paying them, but you're not getting anything from them as far as fulfilling contractual benefits or on duty time. But the idea is to try to get a little bit more of a community policing presence, a true community policing presence. We've been putting this together with bubble gum and Band-Aids for the last couple of years, trying to get officers out there. And, but our belief now is really to put a big push onto like the bike unit that was tremendous in its day. When we had, 80 cops, we could staff it with 4 officers on a regular routine basis, rotational. That was great. It was great on so many different levels. The walk-in posts help, but we just don't do enough of them. We just can't get the cops out of the cars. You talked about the 4. I heard you saying about listening to the police radio and hearing the constant motion that the cops are always under, whether it's an ambulance call or whether it's a fire call or whether it's a police call. And I got to tell you, it's the same in Kingston. There's a lull in the action sometimes, and it's unusual. Like when I'm in my office and I have the radio on it, and I don't hear the dispatch sending somebody, I'm like, is this thing on? Like, it's weird, right? So, and of course, nobody wants me to call down there and go, hey, is everything all right? Right? Oh, what are you
No, that's a jinx.
Stop.
Yeah, you can't ask if it's been a good day.
That's
you
right.
get in trouble.
So it's interesting, but the good news is we do have a good group of officers being considered for candidates being considered for officer. I think that's important, and we'll see. There's challenges. There's challenges in hiring. I know it's difficult for every agency.
Yep.
We're all looking for the same candidate, someone who wants to serve, who wants to give back, who understands that their life is going to change because they got to give up weekends and holidays and and they're doing it for the greater good, right? It's not the money. As much as, cops are, somewhat well compensated, it's not the money. It's not. Cops aren't doing it for the money. There is a sense of a calling. I was a volunteer firefighter, and what gets you out of bed at 2:00 in the morning, there's no money. There's no money. You're going, and there's something to be said about that. So, but when you look at the candidate pool that we're looking at, it's solid. I mean, once they get offered conditional employment, so tonight, if all goes well, they'll vote on 3. Those 3 then will be given conditional employment, and then medical, polygraph, and psychological exams have to be conducted.
Now, I know we're almost out of time. I mean, can you, this review board that reviews and you say is going to hire 3 out of there, recommend, what level do you play? Can you reject? Can you supersede? Is that an advisory or no?
Last year, I acted as secretary of the board, essentially, but through the reform efforts, they removed me out of, officially, they removed me out as secretary. I still go there, obviously, right? You know, they were going to need information about the candidates and the police department, so I'm still there talking, right? You can't just say the chief's not involved or the police.
So there is a level of collaboration between this,
and we have a great commission. I got to tell you, the mayor.
Well, that's good. That's
all
good.
Of it. They are great. There's open dialogue.
Which has to happen. Has to happen.
Listen, I have
to be successful.
Yes, and they call me, they text me, hey, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? Absolutely. They don't get directly involved in the operations, but they oversee it from that level and will make recommendations. Hey, maybe we should. And obviously, the mayor sits on the board as the chair, I guess you could say. So, but yeah, although officially it's not a secretary position, I'm still at every meeting. You have to be, right? So yes, in a lot of cases, they'll call candidates in, and then they'll say, Chief, what do you and your command staff recommend? And I'll say, here are the candidates we felt were best qualified.
I know it was difficult. It was only half an hour. We are out of time. We're over time. So, Chief Tinti, you'll be back next month for an hour.
All right.
You'll have your hour slot back, and always good having. Thank you. And listeners and viewers, we'll be back in a few with birthdays and John Quigley and Ashley Dittus, County Board of Election Commissioners.
Listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
This is the story of Daniel, who was born 2 months early. His lungs weren't ready. His heart wasn't ready. His parents could only hope that one day he would leave the hospital healthy, and they would all live happily ever after. Daniel's is just one of the more than 500,000 stories of babies born prematurely last year. You can help the March of Dimes stop premature birth and bring more babies home healthy. Learn how at marchofdimes.com. Working together for stronger, healthier babies.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the drug facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the drug facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/drug facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Hi, this is Tony Marmo from Norman Staffing, and we've been bringing together employers and job seekers since 1980. If you're an employer and have job vacancies, let Norman Staffing help fill them with permanent or temporary workers. We screen, interview, and recommend the best candidates for your company. We make the employment process easier and faster for you. Please call Norman Staffing for your employment needs at 338-9111, 338-9111, or normanstaffing.com.
Hi, I'm Ruth Quick from town of Ulster. I support Kingston Community Radio, and you should too.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, viewers and listeners who have been with us. Those just joining us, 331-9255 is our call-in number. We have in the studio Ashley Dittus and John Quigley, Commissioners, Ulster County Board of Elections. Alongside of me is Town of Saugerty Supervisor Fred Costello. But before we get to our commissioners here, we need to do birthdays. And what do we got?
Okay. Happy 48th birthday to my daughter, Michelle Tamillo, on October 20th. Love, Mom.
Oh, that is sweet. That's it, huh? Just one?
Just the one.
And I know Michelle quite well.
Yep, good
so
person.
Today's winner of that famous cow pie
awesome.
from Boy's Dairy Milk House is Michelle Tamillo.
Congratulations. Moo.
Michelle, congratulations. Happy birthday. When you get the opportunity, get down to Boy's Dairy Milk House, 62 O'Neill Street, right here in Kingston, New York. Pick up that famous cow pie, courtesy of Boy's Dairy Milk House and Kingston Community Radio. Listeners, viewers, please continue to send those birthdays in. It's always nice to have some competition when we throw it into the jug and spin it around. It's very easy to do. You can email to kcr921@gmail. You can postal mail to Kingston Community Radio, P.O. Box 4364, Kingston, New York 12402. So once again, Michelle Tamillo, congratulations. Happy birthday. Enjoy that cow pie and have an awesome day.
Excellent. So welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're happy you guys are here. It's kind of become a little bit of a tradition, but timely.
It's that time of the year.
It's that time of year, right?
We like to make an effort to get out there and just, bring awareness. I think making sure that we have a community game plan and everybody knows what's going on at the Board of Elections is important.
I think, and this Saturday is the first early voting, right?
Yeah. That's when we start up. Early voting starts this Saturday, October 23rd.
It's exciting. And that's been very well received.
It's been around for 3 years. This is our second local election with early voting. The first year was the first time ever, so it was a little stressful for us. We bought all of this new equipment. We didn't know exactly how it was going to work. I remember that day I just sort of went up to the Woodstock Center, hopeful, fingers crossed, toes crossed, and it really works well. We love running it because it really helps us offset so much stress on the one-day event. So elongating the opportunities for people to go and vote early, it just helps everybody from our side, the voter side, the inspector side. It really decreases that amount of stress that we have.
They're unique setups because you can go to any one of the 6 early voting sites and vote. You don't have to go to one that's specific to you. And it actually, I have more fun setting these up because we're printing the ballot on demand, and it makes it that much easier for us to get the correct ballot to the correct voter. And sometimes on election day, that's one of our biggest hurdles, is making sure that you're in the correct poll site or you're at the correct table checking in. This is all removed when you go to any of our early voting sites. So it makes it very, very efficient and effective to make sure that you go and vote if you go and vote early.
So now, last year, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong, I'm wrong a lot, you had 2 sites for early voting, correct?
We had 5 sites last year.
We had 5?
Yeah.
Where the heck have I been?
You're probably referencing the primary where there was one in Saugerties.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, you are right.
Yeah.
So now you expanded by 1,
Yep,
which
we have
is
6
good.
this
And
year.
for our listeners and viewers, obviously we know there's one in Saugerties. Where else?
So we'll start in Saugerties at the Saugerties Senior Center in the Cantine Field Complex. That's one of our sites. We also have one over in Olive at the American Legion, so right off 28, there's going to be a site there. That's a newer site. We're trying to get more out into the Catskill Park to help all those voters. They don't have to go as far. Then we have one right here in Kingston at the Midtown Neighborhood Center on Broadway. Going down to New Paltz, we have a site at the SUNY New Paltz, the Student Union Building, so we'll be there. Down in Marlborough at the Town Hall, and then over in Ellenville at the Ellenville Library, right in the middle of the village of Ellenville. So we have them all over the place.
You're spread out pretty good.
Cast a wide net. And again, any voter, which I think is the biggest, still the biggest question people have. Oh, there's a site in Ellenville, that's for the people in Ellenville. Or in Marlborough, only Marlborough people. It's for all the Ulster County voters. So you could go to any of those 6 sites and your ballot will be printed for you right on the spot.
That is something that's overlooked. So as a Saugerties resident, I could go to the Marlborough site.
You could.
We even have the data. We see that some people who actually work in Kingston, live in Kingston but work in Ellenville, they're down there voting in Ellenville, and you can actually see the number of people that do that.
Pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting there's so many protocols to make sure that these ballots aren't duplicated.
Oh, absolutely.
And it is secure, and I applaud you folks all the time. The effort you put forward to make sure that the voting that happens here is secure and accurate and all the things that we aspire that they would be. You guys really do an amazing job. And this was a challenge, though, to get this up and running. And there's a new confidence in it because we've done it successfully now for a few years.
There was the one hiccup 2 years ago when we first started, when we reported results, and that's actually something I've gotten a couple questions about recently on on election night. We're not going to have the same screw up that we had 2 years ago, and just that doesn't happen. What happened 2 years ago was essentially two different sets of data being merged together, and when you have to add two different sets of numbers, sometimes things get crossed because they're not exactly lined up. And this year there's no two sets, it's all one set, and it all gets uploaded, and then there will be no questions as to the integrity of how this election process is run.
So on election night, the hope, because things happen, is that the early voting data will become available
First thing.
9:01,
they'll be the first thing on the website. You'll see that, and then for any of those towns, like Saugerties, who don't want to wait for all the results to get back to Kingston and post it on the website, or especially if you're in the southern part of the county, if you happen to have runners or somebody at all the poll sites, you will be able to get those poll site numbers, add them to the early voting numbers, and you'll have as close to real results as you will until everything gets back to us.
So there's that's a fun part of a campaign in a weird way. You have your poll watcher go, they stand there and record the numbers as they're counted off, and then you bring it back to your location and have this big toke board, and you kind of fill in every election district. The Saugerties are 16, so it's a pretty substantial board. But that's kind of gone away. The data comes fairly quickly from the BOE.
Yep, it just has to physically get to us, so it comes from the poll site to the office here in Kingston. So depending on how far away you are physically from Kingston, that's why the outlying towns...
Or how fast the police officers come.
Or how fast the law enforcement officers speed up with the data. That's why we're constantly uploading that. It's a very busy scenario at the Board of Elections. Once the polls close, we are anticipating the return of all of that equipment so that we can quickly put all the information on the website.
But are you also getting those results once the poll closes electronically or not?
No.
You're not. Okay.
No, because...
So you rely 100% strictly on the poll watcher or the police officer bringing the results.
So our machines that do the scanning of the ballots have absolutely no connection to any internet or any sort of Bluetooth or any outside interference. It is self-contained environment, so we're reliant on that memory card, one of the multiple ones that are in that machine, getting back to us that night. And once that gets back to us, that's what gets uploaded and moves on.
Now that I think about it, listening to your talk, it's probably a good thing so it doesn't get hacked.
Oh, and that was like a misnomer. Some people used to think like our machines were hackable, and it's like there is literally no modem, there's
mechanism.
No physical chip or part in our machines that could possibly be connected.
So that chip gets a ride from Ellenville back to
memory card,
to Fair Street in Kingston. So it's going to take a 40-minute ride
from
before
Ellenville.
You guys get your hands on it, and then you still have to plug it in.
We're quick. We got a nice, real quick turnaround. Within 5 minutes of it being in our office, it's on.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's good though, because especially if you're a candidate, you want that data at 9:01. You want to know right away, and when it starts being 10:30, 11 o'clock, we're all like, "Why isn't it in yet?"
Yeah, or if the website crashes, was the secondary problem in 2019, was that they didn't give us enough data to keep the website up, and so many people were accessing
the servers couldn't
it,
expand.
So it crashed. So we were also working with that whole IT department to get that back up and running. Finally, it did, but when people kept hitting refresh, it was actually making the problem worse. So we have resolved all of those issues. It won't happen again. Knock on wood.
2019 was the year that we learned that politics is really popular on one night a year. So everybody wants to access our website.
That's true.
Well, just like anything that's new, and obviously this was quite an endeavor, you two took on along with your team, there's going to be those quirks, and there's going to be those blimps on the radar that have to get worked out. What the number of your team members? What does that swell to on election night?
Well, on election day, we have quite a lot of workers because all of the election inspectors that work at the poll sites. So we're full-time, we're 12 people, including myself and John, and the office. And then on election day, we have anywhere from 350 to 700 election inspectors, depending on how big the election is. So being a local election, we're about in the middle. So we have about, what was it?
I want to say like 620.
Yeah, it's about 630 inspectors that will be at the poll sites. And they help us bring it all together. So they bring equipment to the poll sites, they bring it back to the office, they set up the sites. We hire and train all of those people. So we have actually, it's interesting, the Board of Elections, you don't really think about it in the county perspective, but we have the largest part-time workforce in Ulster County. We also have the largest amount of computer equipment in Ulster County because all of the voting systems. So it's all year round. We're constantly moving all of these pieces because I think about us like Santa Claus and all of our little helper elves. It's all about the one day, and you better not ruin Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Good perspective.
Good analogy.
Yeah. So you don't actually physically within your office on election night when all that data is being inputted, you're basically at the same number of staff that you are on a regular basis?
It's the full 12 of us in there. Last year might have been the only exception where we actually had probably anywhere between 12 and 14 additional people like in and out of our office to help get absentees out the door because there was such a heightened demand for absentees, as well as just going through that end of day process on election day.
Did the absentee requests go back to quote a normal? Or they stayed ahead?
It was still pretty reflective of COVID issues. So since last year, people applying didn't have to originally sign a paper application. There's an online request that they could do. So that is also something that carried through to this year. We also, we've been sending out ballots. We've been getting ballots back. There's a new process where we look at every ballot that comes back and we look for any deficiencies. And if there are any, we let the voter in question know so that they can fix a mistake that they made so they can help get their ballot back to a valid status. So that started last year. It's carried through to this year, and that's going to continue as we go into the elections hereafter. So last year with COVID really changed a lot of how we do that mail-in balloting process, and a lot of those changes have stuck. So right now, the deadline to ask for an absentee ballot was Monday to get us to mail it to them, but people can still come to our office and get a ballot and pick it up for themselves or someone else that has authorized them to pick it up.
So I'm sensitive to this, so the authorization part is important. If I have someone who's in need and doesn't feel like they can get out of their home, they can assign me to pick up a ballot. But there's documentation to show that request was made and I was authorized to pick it up. And then I take that ballot to them. They fill it out, put it in a sealed envelope, and sign the outside. And that's the signature match that the Board of Elections will inspect to make sure it's valid.
And you could mail that back to us, or you could bring it when you go vote early or on election day and give it back to us, or you could drop it off at the office. We have extra hours, so we just had hours last night that were till 8 o'clock. We'll have that on Thursday till 8 o'clock, so our regular hours are 9 to 5, but we'll be open a little bit later. Next week, too, when all of the early voting is happening and we have those different hours, our office in Kingston will be open for anybody to come and do those kind of ballot exchanges for other people or for themselves.
Good. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It's that time of the year. We match the hours, we expand, and we make ourselves accessible.
We come alive.
Come alive, yeah. I like your Christmas analogy.
That was very good.
Yeah.
That was very good.
John has heard all of my analogies a lot, so.
Don't mess up the one day.
Yeah, you can't. Otherwise, people will cry.
Yeah, for sure. It's it's a very heightened emotional time, especially for folks who either worked on a campaign or are part of a campaign or are candidates.
For the candidates, especially on a local year, and I think more so in a year like this year because it's so hard to get candidates to run. And now that they finally stepped up, they're feeling that much more attached to this election cycle.
Yep.
So, I mean, I put it out to all the candidates, like, thank you for stepping up and running. Like, it's just, that's a hurdle in and of itself.
Definitely. We respect the candidates so much to put themselves out there and say, hey, listen, we want to serve our community, especially in a local election. Local elected officials, it's a lot of work, not a lot of glory. You certainly don't get paid for all of the hours that you work adequately. So the fact that people step up and want to do this, and there's two of them that both want to do it, we want to make sure that what the results we show them are accurate, certified. They can trust that everything we did reflects back all of that work. So it's like a mutual respect that we have for the candidates.
And that's a good point, win or lose. And I'm sure I will say this the Wednesday after Election Day. Whether you've won or whether you've lost, the main thing is you got involved with the process and you stepped up. And it takes a lot for an individual to step up. And I'm sure I can remember years ago one candidate who had lost an election. She had said that she never realized how bad she would feel that she was rejected by the people. I don't feel it was rejected by the people. They just felt the other individual was more qualified. Granted, a lot of times I know the politics takes over what is really knowledge-based and factual with some, but it's as you pointed out, it's great that candidates do step up and decide to go through the democratic process and run for office.
And especially off the heels of an election that's making us feel very fatigued with politics.
Yeah. That's true. And I think that's one of the challenges for everybody who's on the ballot this time is how do we motivate our supporters to come out?
Yep.
There's a measure of exhaustion because of what the country has gone through, and kind of overwhelmed by the politics of the day, and you just kind of want to put it aside. But they come back. Elections come quickly, and the one pending is only a week and a half away. But come end of January, we'll be talking about the next one because the primary season will be coming up, and candidates will have to start making their commitments about running or not.
Next year will be even more exciting because we have yet to see what the districts look like and that whole redistricting
changes in
process.
the legislature, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That in and of itself will be a conversation for all of January.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So as soon as election's over, we're certified,
back at
we're
it.
done. We're going to look at those maps because we have to apply all those changes to make sure all the voters are put in the right election districts. Since all of their state election districts will change, it'll be really interesting.
So I'm going to take advantage of you folks being here. One of the conversations I have with a lot of folks is they are concerned that could someone go and say they're Fred Costello and vote on my behalf without me knowing it? And I always implore them, no. When you go there, they have the book. You have to be in there. You have to still be eligible to vote. I certainly couldn't vote early and then show up on election day. That would flag. And that is almost impossible for it to happen here in Ulster County. And you wanted to share some of the protocols that I know you got it, John.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to ask for ID, and we stress that so hard with our inspectors. Your signature is your verification, and we work with our inspectors to just, at that point in the process, when they can see your previous signatures versus your current signature, not to fully go through and challenge it, but to sit there and just let the voter know if it's that drastically different. One, did you accidentally sign in Fred Costello Jr. versus Senior? Because that happens and it creates a whirlwind of problems for us. So we try and stop it before it ever does. Or in the case that you might have gotten the wrong person just completely, you got to tell them this is the wrong signature. And if it gets to the point where you challenge that voter, you challenge the voter based on the signature. And if you reattest to it, then you are reaffirming that you are that person. And by just signing that second form, affirming that you are who you say you are, you can go through and vote without questions asked. But that signature is what's your qualifier.
It makes you eligible or not. So when I do that attestment, does that ballot become an affidavit ballot, or is it counted?
Still counted.
Still counted. Okay.
And with the early voting, because we have those new iPads, they're constantly refreshing back to our office who has voted. So you can't jump in the car after voting in Saugerties and run over to Olive because you're not going to get there in time.
We purposely had to make sure our sites were 5 minutes away, further than 5 minutes away from each other.
So did that refresh quickly enough?
It'll show that you voted. You wouldn't be able to sign in. And also with all of the absentee ballots that we have, right now, if you vote absentee and you change your mind, you can go and vote in person. That's okay, because we count the absentee ballots after the election. So after the election, we go through and we see who voted in person, and if we have an absentee ballot in the office for them, we remove it from the counting pile. So that's there's a lot of checks that we do after the election for all of the absentees, the affidavits. So our work is not over on election night. It's far from it. We're busy the next day and the couple weeks thereafter getting it all straightened out.
That's the one area that I really came to respect the processes that you folks have put in place and your predecessors as well. In those close elections, you really get down to, you're looking at signatures on absentee ballots, you're looking at all kinds of things, and it's really impressive. And there's also the count about how many ballots were issued and how many votes were collected to make sure there's not anomalies that suggest something might have been out of whack.
That's why all that planning that we do beforehand is just setting up all of those fail-safe measures, including if it's real close and we go to a recount, we know we're going to go and count all of the paper ballots that were cast on election day. That's a long process. We did that in 2019. We joke that we both counted probably with our partner 20,000 ballots each.
Yes.
It's long. It's very monotonous because you're looking at the same kind of thing over and over again.
Sometimes the same ballot more than once.
So it's that all of that planning really funnels into, if in the event that something is close, we have everything ready to go and it's organized, and it's going to really, when those people come in and they observe, they're comforted by the process of it all. I'm a big process person. Let's make sure everyone knows the rules going in so that they don't think that we're treating anybody advantageously or with a disadvantage. It's all the same.
One of the best fail-safes we have going for us is what I keep saying is it takes two. There's two of us every step of the process, like we are here at the table. There are always two sets of eyes, and it would take more than two people to be complicit in any sort of disrupting of our election, because we're handing something off to the next person who's handing off to the next set of people. And it's a rolling factor where there's always two people at every step of the process making sure that it's being followed correctly.
And it's embedded by design to be partisan.
Yep.
In a good way. That offers a check. I mean, you theoretically advocating for one side of the aisle and Jim's advocating for the other. I think in the end, both of you are sincere about your mandate. We just want it to be counted fairly, and we all know what happened, but you theoretically there's that check there. Totally. And that's important.
Bipartisanship is alive and well at the Board of Elections.
Not sure about elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, things that you would never think about, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but the one where you'd mentioned about having your polling places far enough apart so one doesn't go to Saugerties and then jump in the car and run to Kingston and try to vote. You just never would think about that. And also, for our listeners and our viewers, what is your policy, whether it be for early voting or the day of? Are masks mandated or just for unvaccinated or everybody?
That's a great question.
Yeah, for sure. So the county, and really we've been also getting guidance from the state too. We are having a mask requirement at our poll sites for everyone, regardless of status. It is getting into not just the winter time, but flu season, COVID is still around. We want to make sure that when people go vote, they're doing it safely. So we just are asking the public and our inspectors to wear masks. We'll have them on hand. We have also sanitizer, things to wipe down the equipment. We want people to have a safe experience, so that's what we're asking the public to do. When you go to vote, even if there's a line, which I don't expect big lines in a local election, unfortunately, it's just the nature of the election, and the whole process takes less than 10 minutes. So if you can wear a mask for 10 minutes, we are just thanking you for helping us keep our staff safe and everyone else safe.
It's the same process we had in place last year with just none of the gloves. And instead of the face shields, we're going just with masks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let's face it, during the height of the pandemic, we were wearing masks for 10 hours a day. 10 minutes is...
Well, I mean, last year's election ran so successfully. We did so well getting that many people in and out of our poll sites, wearing masks, going through the hand sanitizer process, even throwing on the gloves. It was just a seamless transition, and we're just taking one step back, knocking a couple things off, but still keeping that same quality to make sure you can get through and vote.
Yeah, and our voters are great. No one gives us any issues. Really, they don't. They are totally nice to each other. It's really nice to see everyone gets together in these poll sites, and it's really a community effort. So I like going to the poll sites. I like seeing it happen.
I do too. It's kind of there's a real celebration of democracy, and we take it for granted most of the time. And I would encourage folks, it's certainly an off-year election, and we don't have the media telling us about a presidential or a major national race, but these local races are just as important. So go out there and exercise your right and celebrate who we are as a democracy.
And just like that, half an hour flies by.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. So we are at the bottom of the hour. Ashley Dittus, John Quigley, thank you very much for taking time out of your very, very busy, hectic day. And I'm sure the level of that hecticness is going to grow as we get close to Election Day. Best of luck and success with the early voting. It's very, very obvious in listening to both of you. You have your act very well together.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll be back in a few.
Listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
There was this one time I went snorkeling in the Caribbean when I was a kid. It really just blew my mind. We saw the most beautiful corals. I remember thinking they were waving at us as they moved with the ocean. And then there were all these amazing fish. I'll never forget it. It completely changed the way I look at the ocean.
Most of us have a memory of being in nature we'll never forget. Let's protect the world's natural places so more memories can be made for generations to come. Visit worldwildlife.org.
We are Lions. We bring hope where it's needed. We are a global force for good. Support causes that matter. Change lives. Change communities. Change the world. We can do more together than we can alone. Join in. Experience the joy of serving. Be part of the movement. Give back. Let's unite the world for good. We are Lions. You can be too. Visit weserve.org.
Have you ever experienced a wish come true? For a child battling a critical illness, a wish come true can be a turning point. One song, one dance, one game, one adventure, one moment changes everything. Make-A-Wish needs your support to grant the wish of every eligible child. Visit wish.org now to help grant more life-changing wishes. Together, we can transform lives, one wish at a time.
This is the story of Daniel, who was born 2 months early. His lungs weren't ready. His heart wasn't ready. His parents could only hope that one day he would leave the hospital healthy, and they would all live happily ever after. Daniel's is just one of the more than 500,000 stories of babies born prematurely last year. You can help the March of Dimes stop premature birth and bring more babies home healthy. Learn how at marchofdimes.com. Working together for stronger, healthier babies.
Hi, my name is Jackie Levezzo. I'm from Lake Katrine, and I support Kingston Community Radio because it is an invaluable resource to the community and its residents.
A powerful community bank is one that has leaders that are involved in their community. At Rondout Savings Bank, they invest in the success of our community by working side by side with local people and local businesses. When you choose to bank Rondout, you are part of a bank that is dedicated to the future of your success and the success of your community. Rondout Savings welcomes you to open an account today and discover what it means to be part of a powerful community bank, one that knows you by name. Rondout Savings Bank, always working for you and our community, with branches in Kingston, West Hurley, and Hyde Park, also online at rondoutbank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
That's when we do a recount.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, viewers and listeners who have been with us. Those just joining us for our last half hour. Wow, last half hour already. Welcome.
This morning went quick.
Yes, 331-9255 is our call-in number. And for those that regularly listen to this show, normally the third Wednesday at this time, Senator Michelle Hinchy joins us. She had a conflict this morning. Neil Smoller is going to attempt to call in with a new initiative he's going to be taking in Sorgeties with testing and vaccinations. He wasn't certain if he was going to be able to. So we have asked Ashley Dittus and John Quigley, our commissioners at the Board of Elections, to hang out for a bit and fill up some airtime. We have Fred Costello here, Supervisor Town of Sorgeties, in the studio, and nobody wants to listen to us, to Fred and I just babble. So we've asked them to stay on, and hopefully Neil will get that opportunity and give us a quick update.
So while we still have you, one of the things that I keep talking to residents about is their concerns about security. And the current system we employ, the night of the election, you take the memory cards and we download them into the system, and then you put those results out.
Yep.
But we always qualify that by saying it's an unofficial count. And then, if need be, you can go back into the machine and extract the paper ballots, which remain sealed on election night. And then you guys open those together and can count those paper ballots.
So from the end of that election night, there's a lot of checkpoints and a lot of redundancies in place that we go back and we check to get to the official number. A lot of time is like if machines come back to us, we have our machine techs go through and make sure there's no write-ins left in the machines that accidentally didn't make their way back to us on election night. And write-ins aren't necessarily counted in the total for that night. So say we get like 400 or 500 write-ins in a countywide election, we got to count those and then add those into the totals. That's why, and where else we have the unofficial results, the absentees and the affidavits. We still got to go through and do all the research for those. And that's where, once we get through those three steps, absentees, affidavits, and confirming the write-ins, then we can get to a close to official result.
Yeah, we do reconciliation paperwork that the inspectors fill out at the poll site, and then we go through and we check that that accurately reflects what we have back in the office. So we will always do what's called voter history. So we will run a list of how many voters came and cast a ballot in the poll site, and then we match that up to the amount of ballots that we issued. And those numbers have to match, or otherwise we have to figure out, did a ballot get lost? Did it go somewhere? Did someone throw it in the garbage? We train our inspectors to look out for anybody who might leave with the ballot or
might get tackled.
They are looking for something like that. And throughout the day, they also check each other. So they're working together at a table, and one is writing down a list of the names of the voters. And they'll say to their partner, all right, how many ballots have we issued? And those numbers, they match those numbers throughout the day, too. So even at the poll site level, those inspectors are starting to help us with that process. On election night, when we upload those results, we buy a lot of single-use flash drives so that when we go to take the results from the server that is completely remote and offline and has never touched the internet, we take that and we upload the single-use device, and then we put that in the computer that's wired to the internet, so there's never any
opportunity
for cross-contamination. Like if there was a virus on the computer with the internet, it's never going to go back to the server that has the election software on it.
Okay.
So that's something else that we've had to learn how to do throughout the years, and buy all of these memory sticks that we use one time and then they're archived.
Actually, real quick before, not to interrupt you, but real quick before Neil calls in, can we talk about the propositions that are on the ballot?
Oh, that's true.
Yes, that's a great point.
you,
Thank you. There are going to be no less than 6 ballot propositions on every voter's ballot. So voters need to flip the ballot over, because on one side are the candidate contests and on the other side will be the propositions. 5 of them are state constitutional amendments. 2 of those 5 are election changes. So one is going to take away, if it passes, the reason that we ask people if they want to vote by absentee, they have to give one of the approved reasons. Either they're away, or they're ill, or they're permanently disabled. If this passes, there won't be that requirement, and anybody who wants to vote that way can just ask for it and get a ballot. The other one would eliminate registration deadlines for registering to vote. If that goes away, then the state can go and pass a same-day voter registration package, which would allow people to register to vote at the poll site if they didn't register before. So if those pass, we'll have more things to learn and adapt to on the ground level, but those are up for consideration. There's one about redistricting, there's one about the environment, and the other one for us upstate people, we probably don't care too much about, but it's going to change dollar thresholds for the New York City Civil Court. The county one is an amendment for budgetary considerations, restrictions, and then in some of the towns, they have town municipal level library budgets, things like that. If you want to know what they are, our website, which we should say is voteulster.com, and you can look at your ballot, your sample ballot, see where your poll site is. You can look at propositions. There's more explanation on the propositions that the state and the county have given us.
And on election day, when you go to vote, sitting in your voting booth, there will be a QR code on those folders, those privacy booths that are up, that essentially you will be able to scan that QR code and go and read all the details of the proposition so you can better understand it. If you want to know more, if you don't know enough about those propositions, we're legally supposed to provide a copy of those propositions at our check-in table, like in the front area, in the information table. But we wanted to go a step further and say, look, they only require one copy. You can't share that with every voter if everybody wants to see it at the same time. So we put together a QR code system where you can actually go and you can look.
So someone can scan that code and read about a proposition that they may not be familiar with.
Yep.
And thanks to COVID, more people know how to use QR codes. That's true. So we're trying to make things easier and more based in our website and technology centered, but we also understand that, we have the paper copies still if people don't know how to do it. So we're trying to do all levels.
So the pre-registration proposal, that would enable someone who's potentially not registered to vote to go vote that day on election day.
It's still undefined at the moment because essentially what this proposition will do is remove the limit and allow them to go back to the legislature next year to discuss how they'd like to do it. And I can only tell you from our experience the last 2 years, the number of new laws on election law that have passed that we are constantly adjusting to. This is going to just be another one that they're going to tinker and play around with next year until they get it right and then send it down our way. Hopefully not last minute like everything else, but but with enough time to implement.
Some grant funding to help us buy new equipment that we'll have to get to.
Every time it's something we got to implement, it changes our process. Yeah,
we're a little bit like guinea pigs for right now, but we're doing it. We're doing the thing.
Yeah, I always get a little bit nervous, and obviously I want to make it as easy for people and encourage people to participate and vote as I can. However, there's, especially in primary seasons, there's opportunities to manipulate things if you can, at the last minute, influence party enrollment or something like that, where the population of voters is fairly small. Working families is significant, plays a significant role as an endorsement nowadays, but the population of people that vote now is single digits sometimes. So it wouldn't take a lot for somebody to manipulate that.
So and now there's added protections given to those minor parties to not allow, however you look at this, whether it's an advantage or disadvantage, but other people to do a what's it called, the
opportunity to ballot.
Yes, thank you.
You know what that? You've heard of that.
Yes.
So a non-party member cannot go and do an opportunity to ballot for these minor parties, and it's making these party endorsements or these primaries and petition seasons that much more important for candidates of that party to go through that process.
Yeah, starting next year, essentially, the state has gotten rid of the opportunity to ballot process for the way it has been using, which is, for example, a Democrat wants the Working Families line. The Working Families Party says, no, we don't want to give it to you. You used to be able to just go and do one of these opportunity to ballot petitions, which would then force a write-in box so people could go and write your name in. That's really gone now. You can't really do it starting next year. You have to be in the party to file one, which really negates the whole purpose that people have found politically in doing it. So that party endorsement and getting their green light is what it is now.
We have got a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Kingston Community Radio.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Chris from Saugerties.
Hello, Chris from Saugerties.
Ashley and John. Isn't it still possible to win the Working Families Party line if there's another primary going on?
If there's still a primary going on, correct. How that primary gets initiated is the change based on the fact that you have to have the party's endorsements to create that primary if there's two individual candidates.
Yeah.
So in that instance, a write-in could prevail?
A write-in could prevail, yes. Yes.
Which we've seen happen.
Thank you.
Saugerties.
So what do you think are the top 5 county legislative races this year and why? Most interesting ones to watch.
We just run the elections. We won't necessarily comment on which ones are the top 5. Politically speaking, I think we both have our own differences on those top 5s.
Yeah, there will be there's the potential for a lot of close elections that we're preparing for. Really, for us, we look at election night and we say, all right, what do the results say? How many absentees do we have? How many affidavits were counted? Is it going to fall within the threshold to maybe change based off of what we look at when we count those ballots? We know then on election night what our landscape is going to look like, and then we prioritize our counting schedule to get those close elections done first so that those candidates know, all right, we're first in line because our election is within 10 votes or whatever. So we really work together on doing that. Also, we also have to prepare ourselves in the event that a candidate sues us to either lock down our ballot process. That has happened before many times, so we're used to getting...
We've pretty much fully implemented that, like, after election night, we lock down our absentees.
Automatically.
We just do it automatically. That way there's no question as to an if, and, or but, or when we might be locked down. So it's just done.
So they're done kind of as a protocol now.
Yep.
Yeah, we just
What about Freddie Costello? What do you think are the top 5 races to look at in the
Freddie,
county?
I can help save you there and say that if you look at how we order our ballots, there are certain races in which we ordered percentage more ballots for.
A little bit more ballots.
It's interesting anomaly, so you can kind of gauge the interest in some of those races.
Yeah, so I mean that's one of the things we have to do is sort of anticipate turnout based on districts and the type of year. So we have to sit down and we have to go through and say how many ballots do we order, and certain races we are anticipating higher turnout are the ones where we just order more.
Interesting.
Now, what if the turnout is more than you expected and you run out of ballots? You've got the ability, I would think, to print on demand?
Yes,
More
yes.
ballots.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one of the nice things about having those print-on-demand early voting printers is we have the capability to set those up in-house, and if anybody was to run short, we'd be able to get those out to the field. Yeah.
So, but we didn't mention it, but given the times we're in, I want to make the point to share with the listeners. So the network that prints the ballot and knows I voted early in Olive is not connected to the actual machines that count the votes in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So that those
Two completely different
two
vendors.
completely different vendors, two completely different systems. So the opportunities for crossover there is impossible.
Let's see if our caller has anything else. I don't want to keep him holding.
Anything else, Chris?
You still with us, Chris?
Well, Freddie Costello, what do you think are the top 5 county legislative races to look for? You know about politics.
Well, we have, I think, 2 competitive races in Saugerties. The retirement of Mary Worrell leaves an open seat, and Aaron Levine, who ran last time and ran a very competitive race against an incumbent, is running against Gregory Roque. I think because that's an open seat, that's one to watch. I think Aaron's run a very good campaign so far. And then the other legislative race that's contested is Al Bruno and Joe Maloney, which would represent the village and parts of Berkeley Heights and Malden. I think that is a competitive race, 2 certainly capable candidates. I think that's one to watch as well.
I believe there's somebody on that working family line, too.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. So,
Nah, that's vacant now.
You have your own independent line on there.
Yeah, Working Families is vacant, but there is an independent line. But candidate is not running.
The candidate's not competing. But I still think that's a race that'll be curious for folks that are watching. And
there might be a write-in campaign with a fourth candidate, too.
Oh, good to know. Thanks for the heads up. We like to count write-ins on election night, so we'll look out for those.
I didn't catch any wind of a write-in campaign
Well,
yet, though.
I think the race with Carl Belfiglio running in a new district and Ron Lapp, they're guys that have won before, so I think they're races to watch. And from what I'm hearing, the word on the street is that the Brian Cahill race with Vincent Nelson is going to be very, very close.
Honestly, I think a lot of races are going to be very, very close. I think it's just going to be the nature of a lower turnout year.
Yeah, the less people vote, the more the votes count. Statistically to make it closer or not.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the three-way race with Dave Donaldson in District 6 in Kingston. And, boy, that was weird the other day, Phil Erner not showing up for his own debate.
Yeah, I that's one to watch, too. You know, Dave's been kind of a giant for decades in the county legislature and representing Kingston. And I think it'll be curious to see how that ends up turning out. The tale will be where the voters kind of just taking for granted that Dave will be successful again, or is there actually a call for change?
Oh, you know, this Erner guy didn't show up for the debate, and he was upset that Dave had put some negative comments in some flyers that went out door to door or in a mailer. And, you know, that's his chance to call Dave out for it face to face. I mean, what's this guy going to do when hard-nosed legislator like Joe Maloney, you know, raises his voice during a caucus meeting? You know, is the guy going to go running out of the room crying or something? I mean, this should be a serious concern to all voters in District 6.
Yeah, there's
a Democratic candidate.
Yeah, that's a fair point. You know, it's certainly rough and tumble, and you have to have the thick enough skin so that you can still be productive.
Hey, Chris, any other election questions?
County legislator, there's personalities much larger than the size of Ulster County that you'll encounter if you want to be a legislator, and you got to have the temperament and the nerves to handle it.
Chris, do you have any more questions for Ashley or John?
Just trying to help you guys fill some time.
All right, Chris.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your call,
Chris.
We do appreciate your call, and you have yourself an awesome day.
Yep. Take care.
Take it easy. So, yeah, it'll be. There are a few interesting ones to watch, and it's always exciting. You know,
we put on our political caps. There's a lot that we sit and we watch come in, and we're like, this is going to be an interesting one. So, yeah.
We were both born and raised in Ulster County, so we know so many people, especially in this Kingston area. I mean, I live in New Paltz now, but I went to Kingston High School, so I know we see people come in and we're like, okay, hopefully they just don't go negative. And I hate seeing that when people get negative with each other, because again, they all want to serve our community, but that's the heat of the campaign. It gets really, so for us, when people walk in our office, we like to take that temperature down a little bit, and we don't want to see anyone fighting in our lobby or yelling at each other. So we don't tolerate that. Everybody gets the same treatment, even if they're an incumbent or a new candidate. That's why we put, this year when we did the petitions, we put every petition filing online. We put the date, who filed, when they filed, so that everybody knows it's not a secret who's trying to run for office. I personally, I don't care. I want them all to just do the job and do it to the best of their ability. So for us, I want them to be able to know how to get on the ballot, know how to get a list if they need it or labels, so that they can go out and do the hard work. I don't want to go out and talk to voters about candidates. I want them to do it. So I want them to have the ability to do it accurately.
So, you know, it's fun in a weird way, and I've experienced this myself as a candidate. You know, there's this excitement, and your community has the confidence and belief in you that you can do this, and then all of a sudden you get a nomination. You're like, holy cow,
it's real.
Yeah, it's real. And
see your name printed on that ballot. It's real.
Yeah, it's a humbling thing, and you know, and if you're fortunate enough to get elected, that's very humbling, because now people look to you because they have problems that someone else couldn't solve, and the political problems by nature are difficult, and you need You need to kind of do the best you can in a transparent way to try to gather information and make a decision.
And I mean, we talk about integrity of the election process. I think beyond just the integrity of the election process is bringing back integrity to the candidates and the quality of the candidates that are running.
Absolutely.
I mean, when I throw on my other hat as City Kingston Republican chair, like I tell my candidates, we got to stop going negative. It's just not worth it. You need to talk about why you're qualified. If you can tell, just talk about the positives, why you're running and what you're doing, you can make a difference. And I think that shows when we see candidates such as yourself who go unopposed. And even my father in the town of Ulster, when they go unopposed, it's almost an additional recognition of the fact of the work they've done, that like they're just trying to do what's right.
Also humbling. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. But it's humbling. And, you at one point you're like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And you're excited about it. But the other part is like, okay, there's an expectation and you have to do your best to meet it. And it's not always easy. It's very rewarding when you get it right, but it's
debating with each other. We debate about election issues, things like that. But as long as you can walk away and just have respect for each other, that is what makes our system beautiful. And what really is sad to see is all of the fighting, especially online, like on Facebook fighting, all of that. That's really, people get way too personal and they attack each other. And when really, if you have a difference of opinion on an issue, you should be able to discuss it and listen to each other. I think a lot of people aren't listening to each other anymore. And when you listen to people, you learn things and you might change your perspective. And through that comes compromise. That's where government really, the space that we need to occupy is that collaborative compromising method.
I agree. And, as you pointed out, anymore, now maybe 25 years ago or 30 years ago, and obviously things have changed tremendously over that time period, people get turned off with mudslinging. People get turned off with the negative. And as you just pointed out, everybody has different opinions. Respect everybody's. You may not agree with one's opinion, but respect it.
For sure. Voters will call us and they'll say, I don't want to vote anymore because I'm getting way too much mail or way too much phone calls from people. And we try to just say to them, are you sure this is what you want to do? It's only going to happen for a little while. Or they'll say, I want to come out of the party because they send me too much, so I'm going to be not in a party. And I always say to them, well, you're going to get twice as much now because now they're going to
both sides are going to send
free agent. So both sides are going to send to you. So those conversations, and that's happened a few times in the 10 years that I've been doing this. And I always just try to say to the voter, I know you're upset now, but don't take it away from you. This is something that not everybody in the world has the right to vote, and we do. So just because you're getting annoyed at mail, try not to let that get under your skin. And really, you should be happy that people are trying to tell you what they think and get your vote.
You know what I was quite blown away about, and the expense that goes with it. As you get off, I had to pull into the Kingston Park and Ride on Sunday to pick an individual up. As you pull off the traffic circle on the Colonel Chandler to get into it, the number of those signs, those yard signs, and the number of candidates that had 6, 7, 8 of them, I mean, that there will turn people off.
Yeah, the lawn sign wars.
I think we can tell you the intersections and the areas where we know signs accumulate.
Yeah, they do. Don't forget to pick up your lawn signs, candidates, when the election is over. We do
get those phone calls, too.
Those phone calls. People think that we regulate the lawn signs. We don't.
No, you don't.
And we did actually have the DOT just reach out to us recently about just enforcing where along their major thoroughfares you can and can't have signs, because it's that local election year and everybody's trying to test out where they can and cannot put their signs.
I know, but sometimes I look at it and I'm like, are you being endorsed by a guardrail? There's no home in any direction. Whose support are you getting, or did you just litter and put it there without any permission? And 9 times out of 10. So it's signs are what they are.
Psychology behind the lawn signs too, like certain colors are appealing to certain kinds of voters, and it's like, okay, this is all pretty crazy. Talking to voters is the best way of getting someone to vote for you, not putting up a big billboard.
Yeah, there's Yeah, and you have to find opportunities where they're willing to talk to you. You know, I always find door-to-door is certainly effective, but you run into that percentage of folks that are in the middle of something, and they're like, why are you bothering me on my day off?
And with COVID, a lot of candidates have been having a hard time getting people
to answer.
People are less likely, yeah.
Sure, I bet.
Yeah, so things make people adapt. It's been really interesting. We're not involved in a lot of that, but watching and hearing what they say to us, it's been interesting hearing about it.
Yeah, it's an interesting experience. I encourage people to try it at least once.
Yeah.
Well, we just had another half hour fly by, and we're just about out of time. Thank you, Ashley Dittus, John Quigley, Commissioners Board of Elections, for hanging out for a full hour. Wealth of information. Hope our viewers and listeners got a lot out of it. Thank you, Fred Costello, Supervisor at Town of Saugerties. Thank you, Lawrence Maxwell. And most importantly, thank you, listeners. We'll be right back here, same time, same place, next Wednesday.